In February 2012, I gave up refined sugar in an attempt to heal a systemic candida infection. I didn't realize I was sugar dependent until it was gone. I had a sugar addiction. My body craved it all of the time, especially during stressful situations. Sometimes I felt panicked about not having it. I found that eating the slightest bit of sugar sent my body into a sugar-eating frenzy. I wanted to rid myself out of this compulsive need for sugar and find alternative natural sweeteners that would not trigger my compulsive need for sweets. This action research project explored the lowest glycemic sweeteners most commonly found in alternative natural sweetener cookbooks and which of these sweeteners would work best for my body. I began my research on alternative sweeteners by looking at a variety of websites, blogs, and cookbooks that specialize in baked goods with alternative natural sweeteners. I made note of the ingredients and then conducted some research on which sweeteners had the lowest glycemic index. The sweeteners I decided to try were agave, coconut sugar, date paste, honey, maple syrup, stevia, sucanat, and xylitol. I conducted a series of muscle tests to determine if I had sensitivities to any of the sweeteners. The theory behind muscle testing is that it is a non-invasive way to evaluate and assess the body's imbalances and needs. If the sweetener is something that agrees with my body, then the connection between my forefinger and thumb will not be broken. If I have a sensitivity to the sweetener, then the connection will easily be broken. To find out how each sweetener affected my body internally, I checked my blood glucose levels after ingesting the sweetener. I used the One Touch Ultra Mini to test my blood glucose levels. To have some consistency in testing, I tested my glucose levels when I was at a fasting state. I stopped eating at 9 p.m. every evening and conducted a series of tests the next morning. I tested upon waking to get a base number. I consumed 2 tablespoons of the sweetener diluted in half a cup of warm water, and then I tested myself a half hour later, 1 hour after initial consumption, and lastly, 2 hours after initial consumption. Here are the results from the muscle tests. During the first series of tests, the person assisting me tugged on my finger right above the connection point, so I felt the results were inconclusive. Tests 2 and 3 were done correctly, tugging right at the connection point. I was surprised by the outcome of the muscle tests. These results showed a definite sensitivity to agave, coconut sugar, date paste, sucanat, and xylitol. I was shocked to find that I had sensitivities to such a high number of the sweeteners, 5 out of 9 tested. I also was surprised that processed sugar did not register a sensitivity. The blood glucose tests confirmed some of the results from the muscle tests. 4 out of the 5 sweeteners that failed the muscle test had some type of reaction with my body during the blood glucose testing. When I tested xylitol, I felt really nauseous and shaky and wanted to drink water to flush the sweetener out of my system. My glucose levels stayed the highest for longest with xylitol. When I tested agave, I felt like I had a lead ball in my stomach. I was really surprised by this. I've used agave frequently in recipes and never noticed a bad feeling when I consumed it. Consuming it alone gave me the opportunity to see how one ingredient affected my whole body. When I tested sucanat, I had a slight headache for at least 2 hours. And then when I tested date paste, my stomach got bloated. I've tried using dates in recipes in the past and experienced the same feeling. This test helped me to determine that it was the dates causing the feeling and not any other ingredient. These series of tests helped me to determine that I would like to experiment with and find recipes for stevia, maple syrup, and honey. Although my body didn't have an adverse reaction to sugar, it did cause my glucose level to register the highest out of all the other sweeteners. Since I know that refined sugar is highly processed and does not provide any nutritional benefits to my body, I will continue to avoid it in recipes and not consume it on a daily basis. This was an eye-opening experience for me. It was interesting to see how the blood glucose tests lined up with muscle tests. I also found the value of testing a single ingredient during a fasting state. Sometimes it's difficult to determine what food item is causing my body to not operate at its optimum level. This type of testing made it really clear. I enjoyed the systematic process of evaluating these alternative sweeteners. This approach helped me to disconnect from my thoughts and emotions associated with each sweetener. It helped me to see that just because something is natural or touted as good or beneficial doesn't mean that it will necessarily be good for me. We are each uniquely created, and we need to find the foods that work best for our unique bodies.